The transport ship broke through the atmosphere of Viridian 7 with a low rumble that shook the passenger compartment. Colonel Jake Morrison sat in the jump seat, watching the planet grow larger through the viewport, his hands resting calmly on his knees despite the turbulence. Beside him sat three of Earth's finest soldiers, Sergeant Lisa Hayes, a survival expert who had spent 5 years training troops in Arctic conditions, Corporal Danny Chun, a reconnaissance specialist who could track targets across any terrain, and Scout Kate Williams, the youngest of the group, but already legendary for her ability to move unseen through hostile territory. "First time meeting aliens, Colonel?" Kate asked with a slight smile. "First time being judged by them," Jake replied, his voice steady. The ship settled onto the landing pad with a hiss of hydraulics, and the door opened to reveal their welcoming committee. Commander Zach Thar of the Vrin stepped forward first, his scaled body towering 3 meters tall, muscles rippling under armored skin that had evolved on a high-gravity world. His forearms crossed in what the briefing file said was a gesture of formal greeting. Behind him stood representatives of 4 other species, a Lamari who looked like walking crystal, refracting light into rainbow patterns, a Kresh that resembled a massive insect with blade-like arms, a Thalmari whose body seemed to flow like water contained in a transparent suit, and a Skylar whose feathered wings spread wide in the morning sun. "Humans," Zekthar's voice came through a translator device. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Assessment Trials. We are pleased that Earth has chosen to participate." Jake stepped forward and offered his hand in the earth, greeting he knew the aliens had studied. Zekthar looked at the hand for a moment before grasping it with one of his 4 hands, the grip strong enough to crush stone but carefully controlled. "We are honored to be here, Commander," Jake said. "Earth looks forward to cooperation with the Galactic Council." The Lamari representative, whose name translated roughly as bright shining, spoke next in a voice like wind chimes. "Your species profile indicates Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world, yet you appear remarkably fragile." Lisa stepped forward before Jake could respond, her expression friendly but firm. "Earth taught us that appearance and ability are not always connected." The Kresh warrior, called Striker Fast, clicked his mandibles in what might have been amusement. "We shall see, human, we shall see." The assessment began immediately with basic physical trials. Strength tests using standardized equipment showed that humans could lift approximately 60% of what a Vrin could manage, 40% of a Kresh, and were roughly equal to the Skyla. Endurance runs across a 10-kilometer course showed humans finishing in the middle of the pack. Not the fastest, but maintaining steady pace. Combat simulations using non-lethal training weapons demonstrated that humans were competent but not exceptional. Their reflex is good, but not matching the Kresh speed or Vrin power. Zekthar recorded each result in his datapad, his expression unreadable, but his body language suggesting mild disappointment. After 3 days of testing, he called Jake to a private meeting in the command center. "Call Morrison, I want to be direct with you," Zekthar began, gesturing for Jake to sit. "Your species shows adequate performance and standard military metrics, however. I see no particular advantage that humans bring to galactic defense forces." Jake nodded slowly. "What you see are our baseline capabilities, Commander. Every species has strengths that numbers alone cannot measure." "True," Zekthar admitted. "Which is why we have one final test. Tomorrow, we will conduct a camouflage and stealth exercise across varied terrain. Each species will demonstrate their concealment capabilities." "Understood," Jake said. "Standing to leave, Colonel," Zekthar added. "I do not mean to be dismissive of your people. Earth's application was accepted because your world is harsh, and we believe harsh worlds produce valuable warriors. But so far I see nothing that would place humans above support roles in combined operations." Jake smiled slightly. "Tomorrow might change your assessment, Commander." That evening, the human team gathered in their quarters to prepare. Lisa spread out a map of the test area on the table. Studying the terrain features, forest sections here and here, she pointed. Rocky outcrops along this ridge, grasslands in the valley. Mixed terrain throughout. Danny examined the map closely. No artificial structures, all natural environment. That works in our favor. Kate was checking her gear. Standard Earth military uniform in earth tones. No special equipment, no technology beyond basic communications. They will be using their cloaking devices and fancy sensors. And we will be using what Earth gave us, Jake said quietly. Billions of years of evolution. Millions of years of ancestors who survived by not being seen. Lisa looked up from the map. The briefing said they will track us with advanced sensors. Thermal imaging, motion detection, gravitational readings. Everything. Then we don't fight the sensors, Jake replied. We become what the sensors ignore. Rocks don't trigger alarms. Trees don't show up as threats. Shadows are just shadows, Danny grinned. They are expecting either technology or failure. They won't expect natural camouflage to beat their systems. The next morning dawned clear and cool. Perfect conditions for the test. The alien participants assembled at the starting point, each checking their technological camouflage systems. The Vrin activated personal shields that bent light around their forms, creating visual distortion. The Lumari adjusted their crystalline structure to match background colors. The Kresh released pheromone clouds while remaining perfectly still. The Thalmari suits shifted through bioluminescent patterns. The Skylar arranged their feathers to mirror their surroundings. Jake watched the displays with interest, all impressive technology, all requiring power sources and active systems. His team wore only their standard uniforms. Faces free of paint, no ghillie suits, no special equipment. They carried nothing but basic survival gear and communications devices. Zekthar addressed all participants. The exercise area covers 50 square kilometers. You will have 4 hours to evade detection while moving toward the extraction point. Sensors are active now. Tracking has begun. He paused. Looking at the humans, any questions? No questions, Commander, Jake replied. We are ready. Then begin, Zekthar announced. The alien participants activated their various systems and began moving into the terrain. Sensors in the monitoring station immediately picked up their signatures, displaying each participant as a distinct marker on the tracking screen. The 4 humans simply walked into the forest edge, moving at a steady pace, not rushing, not hiding yet. In the monitoring station, a Lumari technician watched the screens, tracking all participants as they spread across the test area. Then, one by one, the human signals disappeared. First Kate's marker vanished, then Danny's, then Lisa's. Finally, Jake's signals simply ceased to exist. The technician adjusted the controls, checked the systems, ran diagnostics. All equipment showed normal function. All alien participants showed clearly on every sensor. The humans were simply gone. Commander Zekthar, the technician called out, concern in his crystalline voice. We have lost track of the human team. Zekthar strode to the monitoring station. Equipment malfunction? No, sir. All systems operating at full capacity. Thermal sensors active, motion tracking online. Gravitational detection functioning, electromagnetic scanning normal. Then where are they? Zekthar demanded. The technician's crystal form flickered with uncertainty. Unknown, sir. They have vanished. Lisa Hayes pressed herself against the fallen log, her breathing slow and controlled. Her body temperature dropping as she regulated her metabolism using techniques taught in Arctic survival school. The forest around her was alive with morning sounds. Birds calling, insects buzzing, wind moving through leaves. She became part of these sounds, her breath matching the rhythm of the breeze. Her uniform was standard issue, earth tones of brown and green. But she had chosen her position carefully. The log shadow fell across her body, breaking up her outline. The dappled sunlight through the canopy above created patterns of light and dark that her form blended into. Before lying down, she had gathered small amounts of debris, dead leaves, bits of bark, a few twigs. These now rested on her back and legs, not covering her completely, but disrupting the human shape that sensors might recognize. An alien drone passed overhead, its sensors sweeping the area. Lisa remained absolutely still, not even her eyes moving. She had angled her face downwards so no light would reflect off her skin. Her hands were tucked under her body, eliminating their distinct five-fingered signature. The drone hovered 15 meters away, its sensors probing, searching, finding nothing but a log. Some leaves, shadows, and light. It moved on. Lisa allowed herself one slow breath, then resumed her watch, 200 meters to the east. Danny Chun had wedged himself into a narrow crevice between two large boulders. His body turned sideways to fit into the irregular space. He had studied this rock formation for only 30 seconds before choosing his position. But those 30 seconds had told him everything he needed to know. The shadows fell deep here. The rocks were weathered and varied in color from dark gray to reddish brown. The natural geometry was chaotic. Danny's uniform blended with the stone colors. His face was angled into the darkest part of the shadow, his arms and legs positioned to follow the natural lines of the rock. When the drone approached his position, Danny controlled his breathing to match the cool air flowing through the rocks, his chest barely moving, his body temperature already matching the stone around him, which had stayed cool in the morning shade. The drone's thermal sensors detected the rocks, cooler than the surrounding air, nothing unusual. Its motion sensors found no movement. Its visual scanning saw only natural geology. The drone moved on. Its AI, concluding that this area contained no living targets, Danny remained motionless, patient. Exactly, as humans had hidden from predators for millions of years. Kate Williams had chosen a different approach. The tree she had climbed was not the tallest, but it had the best branch structure for concealment. Thick foliage, multiple crossing branches that broke up sightlines. She had positioned herself where three branches met, using their natural junction as support, her body aligned with the trunk, her limbs following the pattern of the branches. From below, she was invisible, part of the tree structure. From above, the canopy concealed her. From the sides, the crossing branches created visual confusion. A drone passed within 5 meters, its cameras scanning, its sensors probing. Kate's breathing was so slow that the leaves around her barely moved. She had practiced this in training, reducing oxygen consumption, lowering heart rate, becoming so still that even sensitive motion detectors registered nothing unusual. The tree swayed slightly in the breeze. Kate swayed with it, not fighting the movement, but becoming part of it. The drone recorded the tree, analyzed its signature, classified it as vegetation, moved on. Kate allowed herself a small smile. Earth had taught humanity well. Colonel Jig Morrison lay in the tall grass near a stream, the water's movement creating constant background noise that masked any small sounds he might make. He had chosen this spot because the grass here grew thick and uneven. The stream bank created elevation changes. Shadows fell in complex patterns. Morrison had learned camouflage in a dozen different environments over 20 years. Jungles where any movement meant death. Deserts where even your shadow could give you away. Urban ruins where staying hidden meant understanding how humans see patterns. Now he used all that knowledge. His body was positioned so that his form followed the natural flow of the grass. He had scooped mud from the stream bank and applied it to his hands and face. Not in patterns, but simply to eliminate the shine of skin. To blend his color with the earth, he breathed when the wind moved the grass, creating a natural rhythm that sensors would classify as environmental movement. When a drone approached, Morrison did not tense or freeze in fear. He simply maintained his position, his mind calm, his body relaxed. The drone's sensors detected the stream, the grass moving in the wind, the muddy bank, thermal variations from sun and shade, all normal, all environmental. Nothing requiring investigation. The drone departed. Morrison continued his patient wait. In the monitoring station, confusion had turned to alarm. Zekthar stood before the main display screen, watching the alien participants move through the terrain, all clearly visible as bright markers on the tracking grid. Where the humans should have been, there was nothing. "Expand the search radius," he ordered. The technician complied. The sensor range doubled, covering 100 square kilometers. Still no human signatures. Could they have left the test area? Strikerfast suggested, his mandibles clicking with concern. "Impossible," Bright Shining replied. "The perimeter sensors would have detected them. Unless they found a way to bypass our technology. Perhaps their Death World evolution includes natural cloaking abilities we did not know about," the Thomari representative offered. Zekthar shook his head. The pre-mission scans showed normal human biology, no exotic abilities. No special organs for light bending or thermal masking. Then how have they vanished? Strikerfast demanded. "Deploy additional drones," Zekthar ordered. "Full spectrum scanning. Search every meter of the test area. They must be somewhere." 20 more drones launched from the monitoring station, spreading across the terrain in a systematic grid pattern. They passed over Lisa's log 4 times. They circled Danny's rocks repeatedly. They scanned Kate's tree from multiple angles. They analyzed the stream bank where Morrison lay. All sensors reported the same results: vegetation, rocks, water, normal environmental features. No human life signs. 2 hours passed. The alien participants completed the exercise, each arriving at the extraction point using their various technological camouflage systems. All had been tracked successfully throughout the test. Still no sign of the humans. Zekthar made a decision he had never made in 20 years of conducting assessments. "Halt the exercise," he announced. "Initiate emergency search and rescue procedures." Something has happened to the human team. The Lumari technician looked up from his console. "Sir, what if nothing has happened to them? What if they are simply better at this than we anticipated?" "Impossible," Zekthar said, but his voice carried less certainty than before. "Our sensors can track a single organism from orbit, can detect heartbeats through solid rock, can find targets in absolute darkness. 4 humans cannot simply disappear. Yet they have." Bright Shining observed quietly. Zekthar organized a ground search team. Every available alien participant spread across the test area, calling out for the humans. Using handheld scanners, searching visually. They walked past Lisa's position 3 times. They examined Danny's rocks closely, never seeing him in the shadows. They stood beneath Kate's tree, discussing search patterns. They crossed the stream 20 meters from Morrison's location. 3 hours into the search, theories grew more elaborate. Perhaps Earth technology is more advanced than their profile indicates, one Vryn suggested. Maybe they phase into another dimension, a Skylar proposed. Could they have been taken by native predators? A Kresh warrior asked. Zekthar was about to call for orbital scanning when movement caught his eye. Colonel Jake Morrison simply stood up from the grass, 20 meters from where the main search party had gathered. He had been there the entire time. The aliens spun around in shock, weapons half drawn before recognition set in. Morrison raised his hands peacefully. "Exercise complete, Commander?" Before Zekthar could respond, Lisa emerged from behind her log, leaves falling from her uniform. Danny unfolded from his rock crevice, his movements stiff from hours of stillness. Kate descended from her tree, dropping lightly to the ground. All 4 humans stood in plain sight now, muddy, covered in debris. Completely calm, Zekthar stared at them, his scaled face showing an expression his species rarely displayed. Complete bewilderment. How? He finally asked. Earth Commander. Morrison replied simply. Earth taught us how. The alien delegation sat in a semicircle around the 4 humans, every eye fixed on them with intense curiosity. The monitoring station had been transformed into an impromptu conference room. Displays showing recorded footage of the exercise. Sensor logs scrolling past, showing nothing but empty terrain where humans had been hiding. Zekthar spoke first, his voice carrying a tone that Morrison recognized as carefully controlled frustration. Colonel, I have commanded military forces for 30 years. I have trained soldiers from 17 different species. I have never encountered anything like what I witnessed today. Our sensors swept over your positions hundreds of times, Bright Shining added, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. Thermal imaging, motion detection, electromagnetic scanning, gravitational sensors, even quantum signature analysis. All found nothing. Striker Fast leaned forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. Our technology can detect a heartbeat through 3 meters of solid stone, can track body heat through thermal shielding, can find targets in complete darkness. Yet 4 humans lying in grass and rocks and trees defeated everything. Morrison nodded slowly. Commander, you asked how Earth taught us. May I ask you a question first? Proceed, Zekthar replied. How did your species evolve? What were the predators on your homeworld? Zekthar seemed puzzled by the question, but answered. The Vryn evolved on a high-gravity world with few large predators. We were the dominant species through size and strength. Our greatest challenges were environmental, storms, volcanic activity, resource scarcity, and the rest of you? Morrison looked at each alien representative. Bright Shining responded. The Lumari are silicon-based life. We evolved in crystalline caves. We had no predators. Our challenges were geological. The Kresh dominated our world through numbers and hive cooperation, Striker Fast said. We overwhelmed any threat through coordinated swarm tactics. The Thalmari representative spoke in bubbling tones through his translator. We evolved in deep oceans where size determined survival. The largest of our kind had no natural enemies. The Skyla ruled the skies, the avian added. We escaped ground predators through flight. We were never prey. Morrison stood and walked to the display screen showing Earth's profile data. Then let me tell you about Earth. He pulled up images of Earth's surface, jungles, savannas, forests, mountains. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world. The rating does not fully capture what that means. Earth tried to kill humanity every single day for millions of years. Lisa stood to join him. Our ancestors were not the biggest, not the fastest, not the strongest. We were prey, hunted by creatures that could crush us, outrun us, tear us apart. Humans survived through intelligence, Danny added. Standing as well, but intelligence takes time to develop. For millions of years we needed something else, the ability to not be seen. Kate was the last to stand. Every human alive today is descended from ancestors who mastered the art of hiding. Because the ones who couldn't hide died, they got eaten, killed. Removed from the gene pool, Morrison gestured to the screen. Natural selection is brutal. Earth killed the slow, the weak, the visible. What remained were humans who could think, adapt, and vanish when necessary. Zekthar listened intently. But vanishing from predators is different from defeating military sensors, is it? Lisa asked. A predator's senses are often more acute than any technology. A tiger can smell prey from kilometers away, can hear a heartbeat in the dark, can detect the slightest movement. Early humans had to defeat those senses to survive. We learned to mask our scent, Danny explained. To control our breathing, to move only when environmental sounds covered our noise. To position ourselves where shadows and natural features broke up our outline. We learned patience, Kate continued. Because sometimes hiding meant staying absolutely still for hours, not moving, barely breathing, waiting for danger to pass. And we learned to think like our environment, Morrison finished. To understand what a predator sees when it looks at rocks, trees, grass, water. We learned to become those things. Bright Shining's colors shifted to a thoughtful blue. You are saying that your camouflage is not technology but instinct? Both, Lisa replied. The instinct to hide is ancient. But humans formalized it, studied it, turned it into training that builds on millions of years of evolution. Morrison pulled up footage from the exercise, showing the moment when he had simply stood up from the grass. Watch this carefully. I am not using any technology. No power source, no active systems. I am just a human lying in grass. The footage played, showing Morrison's position from multiple angles. The aliens leaned forward, studying the image. I do not see you, Striker Fast admitted. I see grass shadows, the stream bank. But no human form. Exactly, Morrison said. Because I shaped myself to match what your eyes and sensors expect to see in that environment. I became part of the background data that your systems are programmed to ignore. He changed the image to show Lisa behind her log. Sergeant Hayes is visible in this image, but your brain does not register her as human. You see a log, some leaves, forest debris. Your pattern recognition dismisses her as environmental clutter. Another image showed Danny in his rock crevice. Corporal Chun has positioned himself to follow the natural lines of the stone, the shadows, the color variations. Your visual processing sees rocks because that is what the pattern tells you to see. The final image showed Kate in her tree. Scout Williams understood that trees are visual chaos, overlapping branches, leaves, shadows. Patterns that organic brains and AI systems classify as vegetation. She placed herself where that chaos was strongest and became part of it. Zekthar stood and walked to the screen. Studying each image carefully, your thermal signatures, he said. Our sensors detected nothing. Thermal sensors look for heat sources that stand out from their environment, Lisa explained. I was lying against a log that had been warming in the sun. My body temperature was slightly lower than the log's surface temperature from the shade. The sensor registered me as part of the log. I was in shadows between cool rocks. Danny added, my skin temperature matched the stone. No thermal variance to detect. I was in a tree canopy with varying temperatures from sun and shade, Kate said. My heat signature was just one more variation in a chaotic thermal environment. And I positioned myself where the stream and sun-warmed grass created thermal variations, Morrison finished. My signature was lost in the environmental noise. The Thalmari representative spoke, his voice showing amazement. You defeated our sensors not by hiding from them, but by making them classify you as not worth detecting? Yes, Morrison confirmed. Sensors are designed to filter out background noise. To focus on anomalies, we simply ensured we were not anomalous. We were normal, expected. Environmental. Striker Fast stood abruptly. Impossible. Our sensors are calibrated to detect biological signatures, heartbeats, breathing, electromagnetic activity from neural systems, all of which we minimized, Lisa replied calmly. Heartbeats slowed through controlled breathing. Respiration reduced to minimal oxygen consumption. We positioned our bodies to disperse our bioelectric signature. This is insane, Bright Shining said. But his tone held respect rather than disbelief. You are telling me that biology and training can defeat technology designed to track military targets across star systems? Only in the right environment, Morrison admitted. In open space or artificial structures, our camouflage would be far less effective. But in natural terrain, Earth taught us to become invisible. Zekthar returned to his seat, his massive form settling heavily. Let me ensure I understand correctly, he said slowly. Humans possess no special biological cloaking ability. No exotic organs, no technological advantage? Correct, Morrison confirmed. You defeated our sensor systems using only training, understanding of your environment, and techniques developed from evolutionary survival instincts? Yes, Commander. And any human can learn these techniques? Morrison smiled. With training, yes. Every human child on Earth plays hiding games that teach the basic principles. Military training refines those principles into something more effective. The aliens sat in silence, processing this information. Finally, Strikerfast spoke. On my world, we have a saying, the most dangerous predator is the one you never see coming. Earth has the same saying, Morrison replied. In a dozen different languages, humanity learned it the hard way. By being prey that learned to hunt. Zekthar looked at each of his fellow aliens. Reading their expressions, I believe, he said carefully, that the Galactic Council has severely underestimated humanity's potential contribution to combined defense operations. The discussion continued for another hour. The aliens asking detailed questions about human camouflage techniques, while Morrison and his team provided careful explanations. Zekthar pulled up historical combat footage from galactic conflicts, showing how various species use technology-based stealth systems. Every species in the Galactic Defense Initiative relies on active camouflage systems, he explained. Personal shield generators, light-bending technology, thermal dampeners, all requiring power sources and maintenance, and all detectable if you know what to look for, Morrison observed. Technology always leaves signatures. Power emissions, electromagnetic fields, quantum disturbances. Your camouflage requires no power, Bright Shining said thoughtfully, which means there is nothing to detect, no emissions to track. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. We use what already exists in the environment. We do not add anything artificial that sensors could identify. Strikerfast stood and began pacing, his blade-like arms gesturing as he spoke. In galactic warfare, stealth units are rare and expensive. They require specialized equipment, constant technical support, limited operational duration based on power supply. Humans could operate indefinitely, Danny pointed out. As long as the terrain provides natural concealment, we need no resupply, no power source, no technical maintenance. The implications settled over the group like a heavy weight. Kate spoke up, her voice quiet but clear. Commander, may I ask a question about galactic military doctrine? Proceed, Scout Williams, Zekthar replied. How do your forces typically conduct reconnaissance in hostile territory? Zekthar considered the question. Standard procedure involves deploying drones with advanced sensors, orbital surveillance when available, occasionally stealth-equipped scouts in powered armor. All technological solutions, Kate observed. All detectable by an enemy with the right equipment? Yes, Zekthar admitted. But galactic conflicts are primarily between technological civilizations. Counter-surveillance technology is expected. What happens when the enemy cannot detect your scouts because they are not using technology? Kate asked. The question hung in the air. Morrison stood and walked to the tactical display. Let me propose a scenario, Commander. Imagine a contested planet where orbital surveillance is denied by atmospheric conditions, where conventional sensors are jammed by enemy countermeasures, where powered armor shows up on every detection grid. He pulled up a terrain map. Now imagine you need intelligence on enemy positions, troop movements, supply lines. How do you gather that information? We would deploy ground reconnaissance units, Zekthar replied. accepting that they would likely be detected and engaged. The intelligence is worth the risk. Or, Lisa interjected, you send humans who walk into enemy territory, hide in plain sight, observe everything, and return without ever being detected. We become eyes that the enemy cannot see, Danny added. Ears they cannot hear, shadows they cannot track. The Thalmari representative bubbled thoughtfully. This changes fundamental assumptions about battlefield intelligence gathering. It changes more than that, Bright Shining said, his crystalline form pulsing with rapid color changes, indicating intense thought. If human scouts cannot be detected, then enemy forces never know they are being observed. They never adjust their behavior, never increase security, never know their secrets have been compromised, Morrison nodded. In Earth's military history, some of the most devastating defeats came not from superior firepower, but from superior information. Armies that knew their enemies' plans could counter them. Forces that moved unseen could strike when and where the enemy was weakest. Zekthar pulled up galactic conflict statistics. Our military doctrine assumes that reconnaissance will be detected. That intelligence gathering is a trade-off between information gained and units lost. We plan for those losses. You would not need to, Kate said simply. Human scouts could gather intelligence with minimal risk because the enemy would not know they were there. Striker Fast stopped pacing. This is unprecedented in 30,000 years of recorded galactic warfare. No species has operated this way because no species evolved the biological and mental adaptations necessary for natural camouflage. Earth is unique in the galaxy? Lisa asked. No, Bright Shining replied. There are other Class 7 death worlds, but their dominant species either never developed intelligence or developed it along with size, strength, or natural weapons. Humanity is unusual in being intelligent but physically unremarkable. Being unremarkable was our survival strategy, Morrison explained. We could not win through strength, so we won through stealth, patience, and outsmarting our predators. The aliens processed this information. Their various biology showing thought in different ways. Zekthar scales shifting colors. Bright Shining's internal light patterns changing. Striker Fast's antennae twitching. Finally, the Skylar representative spoke, his voice carrying a note of concern. Commander Zekthar, I must raise a difficult question. Speak freely, Zekthar encouraged. If humans can move undetected through any natural terrain, if they can observe without being seen, gather intelligence without risk, and potentially strike from concealment, the Skylar paused. What prevents them from being a threat rather than an ally? The question created immediate tension in the room. Morrison met the Skylar's gaze directly. A fair question. One that humans would ask about any species with unique capabilities. The answer is the same as for any alliance, Lisa added. Mutual benefit, shared values, trust built through cooperation, but also transparency, Danny said. We are explaining our capabilities openly, not hiding what we can do. You are learning our techniques because we choose to share them. Kate stood beside her colonel. Earth seeks partnership with the Galactic Council, not dominance. We have seen what happens when species focus on conquest rather than cooperation. It does not end well. Zekthar raised one hand for silence. The Skylar raises a valid concern that the Council will certainly discuss. However, I note that humanity could have kept these abilities secret, could have entered galactic politics without revealing their natural camouflage skills. Instead, they demonstrated them openly during a formal assessment. That suggests, Bright Shining added, that humans value honesty in their partnerships. They want us to know what they can do so we can decide how to work together. Morrison addressed the Skylar directly. Your concern is understandable. I will answer it with Earth's own history. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars that used every capability we possessed, including stealth, infiltration, and deception. We learned, he continued, that technology can be countered with technology. Strength can be matched with strength, but trust must be built through actions. Through choosing cooperation, even when conflict is possible. Earth has chosen cooperation, Lisa stated firmly. We are here to offer our capabilities to the Galactic Defense Initiative, not to threaten anyone. The Thalmari representative spoke. I believe humans are sincere, but I also believe the Council will want safeguards. Ways to ensure that human forces operate within agreed protocols. Reasonable, Morrison agreed. Earth would expect the same from any allied species with unique capabilities. We can discuss protocols, limitations, joint command structures. Whatever builds confidence in our partnership. Zekthar stood, his massive form commanding attention. This discussion has been enlightening, but I believe we must now report to the Galactic Council. They need to understand what we have witnessed today. He looked at Morrison with an expression that might have been respect. Colonel, your assessment results will be very different from what I expected when you arrived. I initially planned to recommend humans for support roles. Now I believe that recommendation would be dangerously inadequate. What will you recommend instead, Commander? Morrison asked. Zekthar was silent for a moment, considering. I will recommend that the Council recognize humanity as a strategic asset unlike any other in the galaxy. I will propose that human forces be integrated into reconnaissance operations. That training programs be established to teach galactic forces from human instructors. And that protocols be developed for joint operations that leverage human capabilities appropriately. And I will recommend, he added, that the Council never make the mistake of underestimating Earth again. What appears primitive may be sophisticated. What appears weak may be patiently waiting for the right moment to show its strength. Morrison extended his hand once more. Thank you, Commander. Earth looks forward to working with the Galactic Council. Zekthar gripped the offered hand, this time without hesitation. Thank you, Colonel, for teaching me that some of the most important lessons come from unexpected teachers. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council convened in the Grand Chamber on Centauri Prime. Representatives from 47 member species filled the vast space. Holographic displays showing each delegate clearly. Zekthar stood at the central podium, his presentation materials ready. Beside him were bright-shining, striker-fast. And the other assessment team members, Colonel Morrison and his team, watched from the observers' gallery. Their presence a reminder of why this emergency session had been called. The council speaker, an elderly Vrin named Korthan, called the assembly to order. Commander Zekthar, you have requested this session to present revised assessment, findings regarding the species known as humans from the planet Earth. The council recognizes you. Zekthar activated his display, showing Earth's profile data. Honored council members. 3 weeks ago, I conducted what I believed would be a routine military assessment of humanity's potential contribution to galactic defense forces. My initial findings suggested humans were adequate but unremarkable, physically competent but offering no significant advantage over existing species. He paused. Letting that sink in, I was wrong. Not partially wrong, but fundamentally and dangerously wrong. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zekthar continued. I was wrong because I evaluated humans using standard protocols designed for species that evolved on normal worlds. Earth is not a normal world. Class 7 Death World classification does not adequately describe what that planet did to shape humanity. He pulled up footage from the camouflage exercise. What you are about to see represents a paradigm shift in how we understand stealth operations, reconnaissance capabilities, and the fundamental assumptions underlying galactic military doctrine. The footage played, showing the monitoring station displays as human signatures simply vanished. Then it showed the hours of searching, the deployment of advanced sensors, the confusion and growing alarm. Finally, it showed Morrison standing up from grass where he had been invisible 20 meters from the search party. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Cortham called for order. "Commander, explain what we just witnessed." Zekthar spent the next hour presenting detailed analysis. Sensor logs showing nothing. Testimony from multiple species confirming the humans had defeated every detection system. He explained the evolutionary background, the millions of years of natural selection that created humans who could hide instinctively. He described the training methods that refined those instincts into military capabilities. He outlined the implications for reconnaissance operations, intelligence gathering, and special operations. When he finished, the chamber was silent. A Lamari counselor was first to speak. "Commander Zekthar, you are suggesting that these humans can infiltrate any natural terrain without detection, observe enemy forces without being seen, and gather intelligence with minimal risk?" "That is exactly what I am suggesting, Counselor," Zekthar confirmed. "And I am not merely suggesting it based on theory. I have witnessed it personally. My sensor equipment recorded it, or rather, failed to record it." A Kresh military advisor stood. "This capability could revolutionize reconnaissance operations. We lose significant forces to enemy counter-detection systems. If human scouts truly cannot be detected, they cannot," Striker Fast interrupted. Standing beside Zekthar, I participated in the search. I stood meters from hidden humans and saw nothing. Our most advanced technology found nothing. They simply do not exist to our sensors when they choose to hide. Bright Shining added his testimony. The humans explained their techniques openly. They shared their knowledge freely. This suggests they seek true partnership, not exploitation of their unique abilities. A Thalmari counselor raised a concern. What prevents humans from using these abilities against council member species? How do we ensure this capability is used for mutual defense and not espionage or sabotage? Morrison had been expecting this question. Zekthar gestured for him to approach the podium. "Colonel Morrison, please address the council's concerns." Morrison stepped forward. 4 alien species watching him with varying degrees of curiosity and apprehension. "Honored council members, I am Colonel Jake Morrison of Earth. I command the team that participated in the assessment trials. I understand your concerns, because Earth would have the same concerns about any species with unique capabilities." He activated a datapad. Earth proposes the following protocols. First, all human reconnaissance personnel serving in galactic operations will be embedded in mixed species, units with clear command structures and mission parameters. No human units will operate independently without council oversight. Second, he continued, Earth will establish training facilities where we teach our camouflage techniques to interested species. We believe that while biology gives humans advantages, many of our methods can be learned by others with proper instruction. Third, Earth commits to transparency in our military deployments. Council intelligence services will have full access to human personnel records, deployment schedules, and operational reports. Fourth, we propose joint development of protocols specifically for human reconnaissance operations, including rules of engagement, intelligence sharing requirements, and oversight mechanisms. A Skylar counselor spoke. "These are significant concessions, Colonel. Why is Earth willing to limit its own capabilities so strictly?" Morrison smiled. "Because Earth learned through painful history that trust is more valuable than advantage. We could keep our abilities secret, operate without oversight, exploit the fact that you cannot detect us. But that path leads to isolation, suspicion, and eventual conflict," he said firmly. "Earth chose to join the Galactic Council because we believe cooperation benefits everyone. We will not compromise that by operating in shadows. We will work in the light, following agreed rules. Contributing to shared defense, Lisa stood and joined Morrison at the podium. The Council should also understand that human camouflage is not magic. It has limitations. We are most effective in natural terrain. In artificial environments like space stations or cities, our advantages diminish significantly, Danny added. We require time to study terrain, to understand the environment. Rushed operations reduce our effectiveness. We are patient hunters, not rapid assault forces. Cake finished. And we are still human, still mortal, still vulnerable. A detected human scout can be killed as easily as any other soldier. We simply work very hard to not be detected. Corthan considered their words carefully. The Council appreciates Earth's transparency and proposed protocols. However, this decision affects galactic defense strategy. We must deliberate carefully. The Council debated for 6 hours. Arguments ranged from enthusiastic support to cautious skepticism. Military advisors wanted immediate integration of human reconnaissance capabilities. Political counselors worried about precedent and oversight. Scientific representatives wanted to study human evolution and camouflage techniques. Finally, Corthan called for a vote. The question before the Council: shall humanity be accepted as full members of the Galactic Defense Initiative with the proposed protocols and oversight mechanisms? The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 39 species voted in favor, 8 abstained, none voted against. Corthan announced the results. By authority of this Council, humanity is hereby accepted as full partners in galactic defense. Earth forces will be integrated according to the protocols proposed by Colonel Morrison. Training facilities will be established, and joint operational commands will be created. He paused, looking directly at Morrison. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Initiative, Colonel. May our partnership prove beneficial to all member species. Morrison stood at attention. On behalf of Earth and humanity, we accept this responsibility with gratitude and commitment to our shared security. The Council session ended, but the work was just beginning. Within days, requests poured in from 17 different species wanting to send soldiers to human-run training programs. Earth established its first off-world facility on Viridian 7, the same planet where the assessment had taken place. The facility became known as the Shadow Academy, where alien soldiers came to learn what Earth had spent millions of years teaching humanity: how to hide, how to wait, how to become invisible. Zekthar visited the academy during its 3rd month of operation, watching a class of mixed-species recruits attempting to conceal themselves in forest terrain. Most failed spectacularly. Avrin's massive bulk and heat signature made hiding difficult. Olamari's crystalline form reflected light even in shadow. Akresh's chitinous armor created distinctive acoustic signatures. But some learned, adapting human techniques to their own biology, finding ways to minimize their detectability. Morrison walked with Zekthar through the training area. Not all species can master natural camouflage, Commander. Biology creates limitations, but even partial success is valuable, Zekthar replied. Understanding human methods helps our forces counter similar techniques if used by enemies. And those who can learn will become more effective scouts. They stopped at an observation point overlooking a training exercise. I must confess something, Colonel, Zekthar said quietly. When Earth first applied to join the Galactic Council, I reviewed your species profile and dismissed you as insignificant, another Death World species with more